Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Good morning. I see many friends here. I see Dana and Henry and so many others. So good to greet you all. Um, Uh, who is actually in the Bhakti Center now? Raise your virtual or physical hand. Who is actually in the Bhakti Center, and everyone else, I assume, is Zoom. Okay, there. Not so many. Okay,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
mostly virtual. Got it. Okay, and we have 25 of you here, and then more on YouTube. This chapter is from the 11th canto. And it has extensive purports. I actually ran the production line for the BBT producing the book. That as Haridayanand Raj was translating the verses, and Gopi Pranadana was translating some of the commentaries for Maharaj, and which turned then Maharaj, Haridayanand Raj, would write the purports. And this particular chapter has extensive purports because it's so important. And the title is Liberation from the Illusory Energy. Now, all of those who are totally liberated from the illusory energy, you can turn off your cameras and go eat breakfast. But if, like the rest of us, if the illusory energy still has some little anchor into you, as it does with me, this chapter is for you. And the chapter has Nimi Maharaj is asking specific instructions how to deal with the illusory energy. Every day we have the threefold miseries hitting. I mean, it may be miseries caused by other entities, may be caused by nature, weather, uh, whatever nature may do, and it may be caused by our minds, but they're there. And how do you get beyond it? And King Nimi's asking a really good question. What do you do about the illusory energy? It's there. I mean, is it that we hate the material world? Is it we find the material world extremely attractive? We want to jump into it? What's the view a Vaishnav has? That's what's being discussed in this chapter. By the way, as a spoiler, it's neither. We don't hate the world, we don't jump into it. And that's going to be explained. And this is giving the process of liberation from the illusory energy. So we'll begin. Om Jnana Timisa Jnana Jnana Chakshumita Ye Tadmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So verse 29 goes, Evam Krishnatma Natesu Manushrai Sas Soradram Paricharayam Chobayatra Mahatsu Nirshu Sadhushu. One who desires his ultimate self-interest. Very interesting wording here this sages use. One who desires his ultimate self-interest. We would think we all do, but just walk down the street, you'll see a lot of people who don't desire their self-interest. I'll give you a silly example. Every time I see someone smoking, I cringe. It just cringes. I mean, when I grew up, they had actors portraying doctors would advertise on television smoking. If you smoke cool cigarettes, which are heat, you'll be, if you smoke something hot, you'll be cool. Silliness. They had one cigarette called Kent, with a micronite filter. Anybody remember that one? Kent with a micronite filter. Now, what was the micronite filter? It was asbestos. The worst thing you can do is breathe asbestos. Asbestos is a natural mineral that those people who work in factories that like make brake linings and even houses have asbestos lining the pipes because it's totally fireproof. Um, if you breathe asbestos fibers, you'll get a kind of lung cancer. Extremely dangerous. So they put in the filter asbestos because the idea was it would absorb some toxins. Those of you who are familiar with cigarettes, you'll see the cigarette filter is actually brown. Now, can somebody tell me why cigarette filters are brown? Then we'll continue with the verse, but I want to pause here. This is about
Nicotine,
illusory energy. Why are cigarette filters after somebody's been smoking the cigarette and you see the cigarette, the butt of the filter, it's brown? Why is that? Somebody tell me.
tar, and nicotine.
But that's not actually the right answer, surprisingly. Balavanto, who sued the tobacco companies and won, explained to me what the right answer is. Anybody want to take a guess? It's shocking.
Chemicals?
It's a heat activated dye. And as the smoke passed through the filter, it makes it turn brown to make it think it collected all these tars and nicotines and other things so that what you're breathing is better. It's actually not. In fact, it's more dangerous because if you smoke an unfiltered cigarette, you don't have to inhale as hard, so the smoke does not go as deep into your lungs. And the deeper it goes in the lungs, the more carcinogenic it is. And so and so the cigarettes, it's actually so devious cigarettes because you would think the filtered cigarette is safer, but it's actually more dangerous because one's inhaling deeper. So this is the nature of the illusory energy. I wanted to give an extremely dramatic example. So every time I see someone smoking, I think, what's their self-interest? I had some back surgery at one point, and I asked my surgeon, excellent surgeon, very experienced. So, what's the worst cases you see? I was just curious, just chatting with him. And he said, smokers. Their bones are so brittle that when I try to put it together, they fall apart. So, obviously, somebody who's smoking is not acting in their self interest. Now, all of us do things that are not in the self interest. How many days have I said, today is a day I'll exercise, and I don't? That's not in my self-interest. So this is discussing how can we situate ourselves in our true self-interest. What can we do to get there? This verse gives us a key for that. That's why this verse is so important. So to continue, one who desires his ultimate self-interest, I think all of us here can say we do, should cultivate friendship with those who have accepted Krishna as a Lord of their life. One should further develop an attitude of service towards all living entities. One should especially try to help those in the human form of life, and among them, especially those who accept the principles of religious behavior. Among religious persons, one should especially render service to the pure devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, we're going to unpack this verse in a little bit. The purport, written in this case, I was with him when he wrote it. Hridayanand Maharaj wrote this purport. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the highest duty for devotees of Supreme Lord is to establish friendship with those who have completely surrendered to Krishna and who have achieved Sharanagati, shelter at the Lord's lotus feet. One should render service to both the Lord and his devotees, since the Lord is more pleased by sincere service to his pure devotees. One should not only officially offer respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his devotees and his worshipful paraphernalia, but one should actually render service to the representative of the Lord, who are known as Maha Bhagavatas. Jai. So, and the next verse, I'm just going to read that because it fits in with this verse. One should learn how to associate with devotees of the Lord by gathering with them to chant the glories of the Lord. This process is most purifying. As devotees thus develop their loving friendship, they feel mutual happiness and satisfaction. By thus encouraging one another, they're able to give the material sense gratification, which is the cause of suffering. So, what to do? When I first was in Mayapur, as most of you know, I shared at the very first Gaur Purnima festival, there was only one building in Mayapur, and that's my background, the Bhajan Kutir. There was nothing there. At the first Gaur Purnima festival, there was 60, 70 devotees and one guest, me. And everyone, no Indian devotees, hardly any Indian devotees in the movement, and almost all Westerners from various backgrounds, some intellectual backgrounds, some very hippie backgrounds. And everyone, average age was probably 23, and everyone was in a great mood to, as we say, preach, do outreach. And what happens when you have 60, 70 devotees and there's one person to preach to? They take turns. And one devotee came to me. I had a little cold. I was taking like Alka-Seltzer. And he gave me a 30-minute lecture on how evil it is to take allopathic medicines, and I should only do Ayurvedic. And then the next devotee walks up to me and says, I heard you had some Alka-Seltzer. Can I have one? I have a cold. So it was that kind of situation. And people would tell me, what is most important? People would say to me, this is most important. To somebody, the cold shower in the morning was the most important thing. To somebody else, reading, somebody else chanting. Several people, the most important thing was eating all the prasadam they could get plus more. So everyone had their opinion on what was most important. I became very bewildered. So if one becomes very bewildered, just doesn't know what to do, what's the next step? We're bewildered. We have contradictory instructions from people. And I had no idea. A senior devotee at that time would have been somebody in the movement 5 years. That'd be extremely senior devotee. And somebody else joined 2 weeks before. But they both have shaved heads, unmatching socks, and a dhoti. Unmatching socks was a literal requirement, I believe, because everyone had that. So, so there's no way of telling who was a more mature authority and who wasn't. At least for me, everyone looked the same. So the question is, what do we do when we have conflicting instructions? Can somebody help me with this? You can unmute and say, what do you do?
Hare Krishna, thank you very, very much for today. I'm older than everybody else, and in my advices I gave to my children, I try to do it myself. And when I hear something within the classes and so on, sometimes I feel I should meditate on it. I shouldn't react anything. I just should meditate on it and ask, please, Lord, help me to understand it. And then in that way, maybe somehow I can get the answer, which often I do. Often I get the answer somehow. either by reading something, because I read a lot, as you see here. This is my Srimad Bhagavatam. I read a lot, so somehow I get by reading. And
Excellent.
why I'm doing that, why I don't say anything, why I just say, okay, thank you very much, and then let it be. Because first of all, because I don't want to take the class time, and the second was, I don't want to seem like criticizing or trying to say I know better. You know what I mean? Because when I don't understand, I don't understand. There are even in Srimad Bhagavatam, even there is sometimes is contradictory. And one was you read something, and the other was you read another thing, which is contradictory to each other. So I try to meditate on it. I try to ask, please, Lord, help me to understand that. I don't understand it. That is what I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Anybody else have ideas? What do you do when you have contradictory instructions? Sometimes Prabhupada gives contradictory instructions. Shastra gives contradictory instructions. What do you do when there's bewilderment? I was bewildered. I got a lot of contradictory instructions. Well, I'll tell you what I did. I was in Calcutta a little bit after that first Gaur Purnima festival, and I had the good fortune of Prabhupada being there. And in those days, I could just walk into his room. And he said, "You have any questions?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm bewildered. What do I do to make advancement, to really understand better? What do I do for my self-interest?" And because there's so many contradictory instructions. So Prabhupada gave me brilliant advice. And but I forgot what it was. No, I'm only kidding. Okay, so his advice was very simple, and the advice is the same advice that's given herein, and it's the same advice you're going to hear a lot, and it's called simply sadhu sangha. Take shelter of people you trust. Now, people I trust does not mean that somebody happens to be wearing a dhoti. It means people, according to the Upadeshamrita, that I can reveal my mind to in confidence, and they can respond to me in a reciprocal way. It means that I can be, here's a key word, a most difficult word for many of us, including me. This is the key word of the day. And let me open the chat here. Let's see.
Vulnerable.
Yeah. Vulnerable that's almost it. Let me see. I got to open my chat here. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And the key word I put in the chat is authentic. How to be authentic. How to reveal one's mind in confidence in the appropriate manner. Now, if I walk up to my godbrother or my senior and I say to him, I'd like to reveal my mind in confidence, and here's what's on my mind. You're an idiot. That is not a good way of being authentic. So revealing one's mind in confidence means that I follow the edict of the Bhagavad Gita, which says one if one is speaking in the mode of goodness, one is speaking in pleasing words that may be honest, but also are for the welfare of all, including the person I'm speaking to. So to walk up to a person and say, I think you're an idiot. That kind of authenticity is not what the Gita calls for. Authenticity begins with the word I, not you. I have this difficulty. I cannot figure out what is most important. So that's how I approached Prabhupada. And when I did, Prabhupada said to me, he accepted that as a very authentic. I admitted to him, I am bewildered. I really don't know what to do. And then I said words that are, can't believe I said it, but I said, I'm not even convinced Krishna's God. I was convinced there was God, but I wasn't convinced Krishna's God. So I said to him, yeah, that's, a blue boy with a flute and blah, blah, blah. I don't get it yet. And the first words, and that was me being much more authentic than I usually can be. But Prabhupada would just pull authenticity out of us. He had that ability to do it. I see that when I'm with my senior mentors, when I'm with Radhanath Swami, he just pulls authenticity out of me. It just happens. So I said, I'm not convinced Krishna's God. So what did Prabhupada say? First, guess what Prabhupada said when I said that to him? Somebody take a guess. Oh, don't be
Maybe
shy.
just here. Maybe just here.
He could have, but that's not what he said. That would make sense.
And he said,
Maybe he
that's
was
okay.
happy. Yeah,
That's
happy that
okay.
you're being authentic. Yeah.
That's okay
Honest.
was the answer. That's okay. He said, that's okay. That will come in time. Don't worry about it. And then I said to Prabhupada, I can't even offer my food, with all these prayers because I'm not convinced Krishna's God. He said, that's okay. But thank God for the food because ultimately food doesn't come from a factory. The ingredients come from the earth. And so you have to be thankful and grateful. And I said to Prabhupada, oh, I'll say that to myself. And he goes, no, say it out loud so you can tell people what you're doing. In other words, become a preacher. Explain what you're doing. So Prabhupada, when I was authentic with Prabhupada, he reciprocated in such wonderful ways. So the key here is how to be authentic when we're trying to do what this verse recommends and Prabhupada recommends, that is taking shelter among the sadhus. Now, it's the very first line of this verse. One should cultivate friendship with those who accepted Krishna as a Lord of the life. So what does it mean to cultivate friendship? Again, we're going back to the Upadesh Amrita. There are different ways. You give and receive gifts, you give and receive prasadam, you reveal your mind in confidence and listen in confidence. Now, confidence is a very sore point among devotees. There's a saying, telephone, telegraph, and tell a devotee. And in other words, it's so easy to have gossip. Let's say I go up to someone, you say, I have a lot of trouble getting up in the morning. Some days I'm sleeping until 10 o'clock. I just so tired I can't get up. Let's say I say that to my god brother, and the next thing I know, it's on social media. BT is sleeping till 10 o'clock. What's wrong with him? And that's a danger. I'll tell you a true story. One time, a friend of mine, I can even say who, Panchagoda, a very dear friend, president of Krishna Balaram Temple, was at my house and he's visiting. So I had some devotee construction workers working, and they particularly like non-alcoholic beer. And nothing wrong with non-alcoholic beer, it's just hops and other ingredients. Some people don't like the taste of it in particular, some do. So I had some non-alcoholic beers at my house. And it's actually, look in the ingredients, it's not a bad drink. And I offered one to Punch, go, would you like one? And he said, sure, we'll sit down. It's the only cold drink I had. It was a hot day, middle of summer in Florida. Another devotee rang my doorbell. And I invited him in. I'll leave that name out. And I said, we're having a non-alcoholic beer. Would you like one? He says, no, I'm not thirsty. It's fine. Next thing I know on Facebook, Brahma Tirtha and Panchagoda, I caught him drinking beer. That really happened to me. I didn't take it that seriously. If people know me, they can ask what was going on, and they're going to believe every piece of garbage on the internet. That's their problem, not mine. But that actually happened to me. Gossip. One time, Prabhupada was walking by Brahmacharya Ashram in Denver, and there was one sannyas who was having some trouble. He couldn't chant his rounds and some difficulty. Eventually, he left sannyas, remained a good devotee. And Prabhupada heard the brahmacharis gossiping about him. Prabhupada was furious. Now he'll go away and he can't come back because it says in the Bhagavad Gita, one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. So gossip is so dangerous. So, and social media is basically mostly gossip. So the idea is that in our self-interest, we cultivate true friendships. That is, we cultivate a relationship with people that we can trust, that they can trust us. And we try to be more authentic, because the more authentic we are, as Shakespeare said, what did Shakespeare say about being authentic? There's a super famous line from Shakespeare, from Hamlet. I'll give a hint. Anybody know it? To thine own self. Oh, come on. Somebody here must have known Shakespeare. Prabhupada knew
To
Shakespeare.
thine own self be true, and thereby be false to no other man.
Yes, to thy own self be true. Thou canst not then be false to any man or woman. To thine own self be true. There's a lot of wisdom from that great Vaishnava Shakespeare. Okay, maybe not a great Vaishnava, but still a lot of wisdom. So in that mood of being true, when we have friendship, we actually can reveal our mind because we know it's not going to be gossip. We know it'll be trusted. And this verse is demanding it. And then when one develops, by revealing our mind in that humility, we develop a service attitude. And it's Prabhupada, King Nimi has answered that this service attitude is developed towards all living beings. Now, there's some prejudice given here, especially in the human form of life. We may be kind to the animals, we certainly don't kill them and eat them, but especially human beings, because the animals, they have their karma, they have their suffering. Every time we see, a hawk catching a mouse, it's not that we have to go rescue the mouse from the hawk. Nature has to do its thing. So the way this verse is worded, one should especially try to help those in a human form of life, and among those, especially those who accept principles of religion. And among religious persons, one should render service to the pure devotees. So this is ultimately the secret of Krishna consciousness. And one should not only, the purport says, officially respect the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's for the neophyte devotees. We go to the temple, we see the deities, we offer respect. We go to the synagogue, we offer respect to the Torah. We go to the church, we offer respect to the icons. That's the official. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a nice thing to do. But here it's going beyond that. One should not only officially respect, he should actually render service. And it's by rendering service that we ultimately free ourselves from our false ego and we reach the ultimate level of complete authenticity. So I've been told to stop 10, 15 minutes before the end of the class and take feedback, comments, questions. Is there any comments on this very, very important verse? Any reflections, questions? You can
Prabhu.
raise your hand, go in the chat, unmute.
Prabhu,
Yes.
Haribo, wonderful. Thank you for addressing that kernel of what the seed of all growth comes from. Could you expand or tell us about one of Prabhupada's last instructions was such a simple statement and goes hand in hand with what you were saying, which is his statement. They asked him, what do we need to do, Prabhupada? What can we do, when you're gone? And he said, just be sincere. And I've found throughout the years of insincerity that the times that I do alight upon that quality, that it answers everything. Like when you're authentic to yourself, when you're true to yourself, when you're sincere, even in the sense that, hey, I've got some stuff to handle. I got some stuff to take care of, some tests to go through, that humility. Could you, as Prabhupada said it, maybe put it in context?
Well, what you're asking is, word your question a different way. I want to make sure I understand it.
Give us context for Prabhupada's famous
Yeah.
statement, just be sincere.
Yeah. One time Prabhupada was asked, how do you be sincere? And Prabhupada responded, just be sincere. Being sincere means that our heart is not duplicitous. And that's a tough one. I mean, how many of us can claim that we have no duplicity in our heart? That we, as the cliche goes, that we actually walk the talk. So I found the best way for me to be sincere is to associate with sincere people. It brings it out from me. I'll tell a story that will put this in context. One time I was at a retreat out just on Long Island, and it was at a beautiful, beautiful park. And Radhanath Swami was speaking in the morning. In the afternoon, there were other speakers. And then Radhanath Swami came to me and he said, let's play hooky for the retreat and go for a walk. I wasn't going to say to no to that one. So just the two of us went on a 5-hour walk. And it was something Radhanath Swami wanted to reveal his mind. And he and I have a relationship going back many, many decades. So I felt quite honored and trusted they wanted to reveal his mind. And what he wanted to reveal his mind on is very relevant for your question of sincerity. He said, when I lived a simple life, be it in Vrindavan or New Vrindavan, where in the morning I had to break the ice on top of the bucket before I poured over my head for my morning bath to begin my pujari work. Life was so simple. Now I'm a guru and I have all these disciples and people worship me, blah, blah, blah. So every day when I wake up, I have to look in the mirror and say, I'm just the humble servant, remind myself, because otherwise I'll get caught up in all the glory and worship and everything. And he went on for hours talking about how difficult it is. And every morning he has to remind himself that he's just the humble servant. That is sincerity. So, and by associating with him and that long talk, when we were done, I felt I was a more sincere person just by that association. So association, sincerity means we have to give up our false ego. So that requires work. I'll give us a simple example that you all know. Every day, I hope every one of you takes a shower. When in the days when I aspired to be a hippie, I failed as a hippie. I could not be accepted in the hippie community because I showered every day. And that was a total disqualification to be a hippie. Showering once a week if you need it or not was the motto. Those of you who are from that generation will know what I'm talking about. So I couldn't quite, I couldn't quite make it as a hippie then. I had a disqualification. So in order to be sincere, we have to be able to admit our difficulties in a with someone that we trust. We have to cultivate our friendships, and cultivating friendships is, again, as I discussed earlier, is given all the details are in the Upadeshamrita, a most important book. Everyone must read it. It was published very early in the movement, and it's an internal book. It's for devotees. I mean, we distribute on Sankirtan and all. It's a nice book. Anyone can enjoy it. But Prabhupada did that very early on to establish the relationships of devotees so we know how to be sincere with each other. It gives the instructions on how to be sincere and authentic. So I saw Sadivi, you had a question? Or Sadvi, if I'm saying that right?
Yes, thank you. There are two issues I'm thinking of. One question is, you mentioned about the people who smoke and so on. It is addiction that people have, many people have. Is the addiction kind of karma?
Well, is the addiction karma? Well, there's a certain amount of free will, and anybody smoking, there's right now the cigarette companies in their settlements for their many lawsuits against them, they had to put money aside for anti-smoking campaigns. So anybody who's smoking for free can get nicotine patches, join an anti-smoking campaign. So yeah, it's an addiction. Some people have very addictive personalities. That's their karma. They get addicted very easily to almost anything. So that's a karmic. Some people are less addictive personalities. That's their karma. But we all have a certain amount of free will. And with that free will, how much free will do we have? That's an interesting question. A book came out recently by a famous philosopher, and the name of the book is We Have No Free Will. I'm curious how he wrote the book, but that's another matter. And his arguments, Spolansky's his name, I found very, very weak. But some of his arguments had some merit because the amount of free will we have, sometimes we overstate it or understate it, because there is, as you're pointing out, karma. I'll give an example that will put the context of what I'm saying very crystal clear. Let's say I go to the airport. When I get to the airport, I can go up to a ticket counter and at Kennedy Airport buy a flight. I can buy one to Sweden. I can buy one to Albany. I can buy a flight to any city I want that has an available seat. That's my free will. Once I buy that ticket and I get on that plane, now I've restricted my free will. Do I get a 7-Up or a cup of water? And do I recline my seat or not recline my seat? My free will is greatly reduced by me making that decision of which flight I'm getting on. So we have a certain amount of free will. And if our free will is to fall deeper into material entanglement, then we are taking away our free will and reducing it. Like when we got on the airplane, we've cut our freedom down by particularly choosing a flight. So similarly, when we reduce our free will by overindulging our senses, then we reduce our free will and we be very subject to whatever karma we're carrying. And if we control our senses, then we're less subject to that karma and we increase our free will. Now, why is free will important? It's critically important for devotional service. Why? Because the ultimate goal of devotional service is love, and love requires free will. If we want to have love for each other, ultimately love for Radha Krishna, we have to increase our free will. And the way we increase our free will is by being less controlled by our senses. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Good. Okay. We have
Thank
time
you.
for one more question or one more comment. Anybody else have anything to add or subtract? I know Gail always has a good question.
I have Devaki Preeti has a question. Devaki Preeti, go ahead.
Ah, yes, there you are. I see you. You have a
Thank
nice
you so much.
smile. I like your smile, but go on.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. I really appreciated it because I feel like we can feel like if we expand our free will, we will have less. But how can we keep that constant understanding? Because I feel like because we're so much surrounded by material things, we can forget the benefit of expanding our free will by being in Krishna consciousness and trying to control our senses.
Oh, that's a very appropriate question. Good association. That's the answer. Simple as that. A good association does not mean associating with someone who might have, tilak and neck beads particularly. It means associating with people that I trust and being discerning about that. Now, I have many sadhus, they may be devotees, they may be in another tradition who I associate with or I don't associate with. Now, by not associating doesn't mean I snub my nose when I see them, but I'm much more casual. I'm not going to reveal my mind. And there are those who I intimately reveal my mind to because of great trust. So now I find I have friends who are devotees, friends who are not devotees. Those who are not devotees, there's only so much limit that I can reveal my mind. When I can't say things like, well, I have to make this decision. Should I take this job or that job? Let's just pick some mundane thing. Now, when I'm with a devotee friend, I'll say, I'm trying to understand what Krishna's plan is for me. To my non-devotee friends, it's a little hard to say, to explain that. But devotee friends, I can put it. I'm really trying to meditate. What does Krishna want? What would please Krishna? But to my non-devotee friends, I can still reveal my mind. We can have discussions. I have, very good non-devotee friends too, but there's a limit of how I can reveal my mind. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much.
Keep that smile up. Smiling. One time, Prabhupada said to Hridayanraj, your smile will make millions of devotees. So it's our smiles that attract people. It's our happiness that attracts people. Okay, with that, it is 8:01. We're going to greet the deities now. I thank you all very much. I pray you all have a blessed day with great association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Brahma Tirtha Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila
Yeah.
Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Murli Dhara Shri Guru Chandra Ki Jai. Dear devotees, your pens should be on by now. Please turn on your cameras. Darshan time.
Hey.
Kanda Pagodhikaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Dhammaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Dhammaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Dhammaham Bhajami Anganiya Chakale Diya Vritti Shanti Panti Kayanti Ilunyaganti Andachinam Anayasya Govena Govinda
Hare Krishna, welcome to the Afterglow. Would anyone like to speak in line with Guru Saran Shastra? Any realizations, any takeaways that you'd like to share? Gail.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. This is more of a request / comment. I don't know what it is, but I was very, very much affected by one of the comments in the chat. And upon reading it, I was wondering if we could, I already have prayed for the person, but I'm wondering if we could pray for, I don't know him, Narottam, maybe Nityananda, I don't know what the full name is, but whoever wrote that message in the chat, I was hoping that we could all collectively pray for him. It sounds so tragic.
Yeah, we see that message. Yeah, let's pray for Narottam Nitai Prabhu. Narottam Nitai Prabhu, please come back. We will sort it out in morning class. That's what hearing is for.
Is he a regular participant on this Sangha?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in the right place, I guess, with Srila Prabhupada's morning program. Yeah, thank you, Gail. Any further questions?
No, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Gail.
That's always, thank you. I thank you every day for your steadfastness in facilitating our hearing from so many amazing speakers. I thank you every day for that, really, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail, for your questions. They always start a wonderful discussion and always allow us to go deeper on our path. to Prema, on our collective path to Prema, under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada in the Guru Parampara. Sweet. Any realizations, anything? I'd like to share a quick realization. I once received, it's in regards to developing relationships with the devotees, making friends and all that. I once received a call from a devotee who had never called me before. Yeah, we knew each other, but we weren't friends or close friends or anything like that. So he called me and started asking questions. How's the family? How's life? How's work? And we had a nice talk. And then he said, "All right, I'm gonna move on to the next person. I got 49 more people on my list. This is the list I made of all the people that I want to develop friendship with. So goodbye, Prabhu. Hare Krishna." And I was like, okay. I'm one of the 50 that he deliberately wanted to develop relationship with. But it felt a little weird. And my question for Brahma Tirtha, maybe we can make it an open question, was how do we develop friendship with the devotees without sounding like a robot? All right, I'm going to focus on humility today. I'm going to focus on friendship today. I'm going to check off 50 people on my list, and I'm going to, Prabhuji, I want to be your friend. How are you doing? How do we develop genuine relationship with the devotees without sounding like that, coming off like somebody who is mechanical? And the same goes for Krishna. Krishna, I really want to love you. I want to focus on my relationship with Krishna today. How do we avoid that kind of artificial, forced mood in our dealings with devotees and Krishna? And I'm not saying that this devotee that called me had that. It just what I created in my mind, the kind of image. It's all in my mind.
Well, what instinctively comes to my mind is that you would choose to reach out to somebody that you have a genuine attraction towards, so that when you reach out to them, that reaching out is coming from an authentic place, not, some random place, like you just threw a bunch of names together, but because you have genuine, something about that person really strikes you. Maybe they have qualities that you would like to imbibe yourself, or you just feel like a natural connection or a chemistry with the person. Something authentic, I would think, should be the what do you call it, like the jumping board.
That is super helpful, Gail. Yes, I think you really nailed for me. We should always presume authenticity. And we should appreciate when somebody's reaching out to us, even if it's done strategically. Still, he reached out and it was sweet. We had a sweet exchange, and we should appreciate that. Thank you, Gail.
Can I add to what Mama Gail said?
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing when she said that, and I was thinking that people can feel when you genuinely want to connect with them. So that also helps the relationship, and people can tell when you're just like trying to check off a box. So I think that, yeah, that genuineness, the other person can feel it, and that will also help them in their connection with you when you're authentically have an authentic desire to connect with them and reach out, and that will also help the relationship.
Thank you, Jackie Preeti, and thank you, Gail. You really helped me today to untangle one more knot in my little tiny heart. Okay, any further contributions? Devaki Preeti and Amrita Kishori are in the same patch of grass. They're bound down to Shishirada Muladhar. Okay. Amrita Kishori, we saw you briefly. All right. Karen is probably traveling, or I don't see Karen. Sundari Radha, are you here? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, there they are. All right, Paw Patrol, Sky, Age, nice to see you. Can you?
Sky walking. Dinosaur.
What's your friend's name?
Hi, Joe. All right, girls, you
Sweet.
ready to sing? Ready? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Sky and Sage. It's so nice to see and hear you every morning.
So beautiful.
Have fun playing with your friends. Do it as an offering to Krishna. Okay, dear devotees, same for you, please. Everything you do, do it as an offering to Krishna, like you are now. Thank you very much for your association, for tolerating us. Thank you.